Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, July 8th, and welcome to Scouting the League. It was a macro picture yesterday of what a fall looks like for an NFL area scout. Today, we dive into the micro picture as we look at what we will call a typical week looks like for an NFL scout. Before we dive into that, though, head over, give us a like, subscribe, and share wherever you are listening or watching this podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube. If you like that video portion, make sure you check out all the football content we have over at our new home as well, profootballinsiders.com. Give me a follow at RightStepADV. Head over to rsafootball.com to check out my website. That is Right Step Advising. Neil Stratton, my co-host every Wednesday, as well as the mastermind behind the Friday Wrap, is at Inside the League on X. InsideTheLeague.com is his website, as well as check out his blog, SucceedInFootball.com. You can follow Pro Football Insiders at pro_FB_insiders on X as well. So, a week on the road, the Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturday grind throughout the college season falls into somewhat of a repetitive cycle that scouts hit a rhythm in. For scouts, you have to think about a typical week from a college program standpoint, starting with those that play on Saturdays. For those programs, it looks something like this. Of course, you've got a game Saturday. Sunday becomes either a light walkthrough, rehab days, meetings, cleanup, or for some teams, it's an off day. Of course, the NCAA does mandate one off day a week. We will see how long that lasts as the NCAA continues to change. For some schools, then Monday becomes either the off day or the very reverse. That Sunday becomes a Monday. Those 2 days, again, depending on the program, depending on what the school likes, academics, all those things, those Sunday and Monday, day after the game, 2 days after the game, they can really be reversed. Tuesday, game plan install. Typically, you're talking about kind of an uppers practice, maybe go full padded practice. Wednesday, same thing. You get some game plan, you get an uppers or full practice. Tuesday, Wednesday, those are your big days. Thursday, usually you're starting to wind down, maybe a half padded practice. You maybe get some uppers, get a game plan, maybe get some cleanup. If it's going to be a travel day, maybe it's even lighter. Friday, of course, lighter walkthrough, perhaps a travel day, perhaps you're already taken off at some point. Saturday, S game day. Obviously, scouts aren't going to be a part of that. For most college programs, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, they are going to be the best surefire days to be open for scouts. Of course, rivalries, big games, changes throughout the season, perhaps going to close up an entire week, but not something that you worry about for the sake of today's conversation. Again, we're going to assume it's a normal week and that its school has open restrictions for the week. Sundays and Mondays for scouts, it's going to be very hit or miss on if you're going to be able to go do a scouting visit. If a scout is visiting on a Sunday, the hard part is anyone outside of that football program's not likely going to be around. So getting to some of those non-football people that we'll talk about, academics, people outside of the football program, can be really a challenge to get those. Maybe you're forced to do them on a phone call. Maybe you're going to Zoom with them as Zoom has become so normalized. But again, finding any of those people that you just want to bump into, it's just a lot quieter building on a Sunday. Mondays can also be a challenge, even for those non-football sources, as Mondays, we all know, are often slammed to start the week in the building. Again, everything's transitioning from last week's game, clean up. We're going to work on next week's game, find out what the opponent does. Again, that means a lot of doors are closed, a lot of doors are locked. People are very busy for a longer portion of the day. So depending on how last week's game went, everyone may also be a little bit harder to talk to. Again, a tough loss on Saturday usually means quieter visits to start the week as you're still trying to kind of flush that game out of the system. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, the weekly rhythm is really starting to hum. The last game has been washed. Again, it's now business as usual. Again, whatever happened last week is in the past. We're looking forward. We're optimistic about this next week. Meetings are happening. There's optimism about the next week. And then by Friday, most programs want to move the distraction. So Tuesday, Wednesday, you want to really hit those. Thursdays, again, becomes a little bit of a question mark depending on where you're at, depending on what that travel schedule looks like. Thursdays can be really, really good days to kind of get people. You've kind of cleaned up game plan. You're winding down the week. You're starting to think about that kind of stuff by Friday. Again, now school's once you're gone. Remove distractions. Scouts are often barred or at very least kept at arm's length on that Friday. Again, practices get tighter, coaches get tighter, sources get tighter, tighter lipped. There is always an element of paranoia from college programs that NFL scouts are going to, again, accidentally share something, accidentally leak something. I think it is one of the more over thought about things. In my time, I don't ever remember it happening. Not to say that it has never happened. Scouts are professionals. Scouts want to do the right thing. Schools being paranoid. That's just part of being a coach at any levels. You're always worried about your game plan secrets getting out. So you get done with all that stuff Monday through Friday, and again, you kind of get through it. The beauty of an area, though, is while these A schools, these perennial powers that operate in a Saturday game week schedule, mostly stick to that schedule. Every area has their B, C, and D schools who are a little bit more flexible. Think about it. The MAC schools, your Sun Belt, your FCS programs, once the season gets going, they have games nearly every day of the week. So instead of a Saturday game with the Saturday game week schedule, that game is now on Thursday. Everything just gets bumped up a couple of days. So now a Wednesday is a Monday. A Monday is now a Saturday. So your productive days of the week have now shifted over a couple. So instead of your Tuesday, Wednesday being your really productive days in a school, now it's going to be, hey, all of a sudden I can have a productive Monday day in the football building. Again, we still have to find room for academics. We still got to work our sources in that way, but everything is shifted up. This is how you start working a really positive week where you have really positive visits Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Of course, Friday becomes a question. But again, as we know, in the Midwest, action happens on Tuesday, which means Friday and Saturday all of a sudden becomes business as usual. Those become your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays of the week, and everything takes place. Have to give a shout out to some of the best visits I had in the Midwest. Places like Eastern, Western, and Central Michigan all used to be fantastic visits in the state of Michigan. Places like Northern Illinois, Bowling Green, Toledo. Again, loved my MAC schools. They were always open, always accommodating, always did everything they could for scouts. Places whose schedules were always a little bit all over the place. As we talked about with those matching games, we're seeing that more across the country, but they were always willing to do whatever they could for scouts, not only to be welcome in their buildings, but to be productive, getting everything set up, getting the people they need to make sure they got all their information. So, what will a Scouts week look like? Assuming the conversation, of course, for Scouts lives in this area is they're already living there. Maybe they're already in the week. So, maybe a back half week, no travel associated with getting to your area. It's going to look something like this. Typically, hit that B or C level school on Monday. Once in the building, you're going to be meeting with pro liaison. That is going to be your go-to source. Hopefully, after that, a strength coach, athletic trainer, any coaches you can get lined up as well, any other staff member that knows these players, personnel people, QC coaches, anybody you can get. Again, that's going to include video equipment, compliance, personnel, anybody that knows these players. Sometimes a program will line up academics. Sometimes that's a scout's job to do. That's just going to depend on the school and getting to know the school and what you have to do. Every building is also going to have go-to people that are going to be sources for everything you need to know. That is one of those hidden arts in scouting. Find out, talk to everybody. It is, you never know who overheard, who has a relationship, who's seen, who's heard, who knows something. That can be everybody from, somebody sitting at the front desk and letting people in to somebody in the back that has, a broom and a mop and does, the hard, dirty work after the hours. They are some of the best sources you will ever find. Take care of them. Being in the building is how you get to know some of those people. At some point, you're likely going to go then and watch at least part of practice, spend some portion of the day in a room watching film. As film access has become more readily available via the iPad, sitting and watching film in a room for scouts has become a little less common, especially as the season has gone on. You find it very, very common early in the year, but again, as the year goes on, you find less of it. I would argue being in the building for scouts is going to give you insight that is irreplaceable. It's one of those things. I was with scouts who, as soon as they're done with meetings, they're hitting the road. They're going to get their film on their iPad. They want to get posted up, get to their next hotel. My philosophy that I learned from a bunch of really good scouts: be in the building. You never know what you're going to see, who you're going to see, what you're going to overhear. It's insight that it's irreplaceable. I remember some specific stories. In one instance, I was in a school. I had met with a pro liaison, hear all about this one prospect who we knew, the scouts knew going in, there were some questions. There were some off-field things that they had dealt with in the past fairly publicly. We had just sat and heard for about a half hour, hey, everything is turned. He's turned the corner. He's not doing this. He's not living that life anymore. Well, again, I'm sitting there watching film. I head down the hallway to the bathroom. Well, guess who happened to be in the bathroom? They didn't know who I was. They were having a conversation with a buddy who was in there, all about their past weekend. Let's just say what had been relayed to us by the pro liaison, whether knowingly or unknowingly by that pro liaison, was probably not accurate based on the story he was telling. According to the athlete, they were still having a better than good time on the road that, again, kind of disputed. Again, it just becomes more questions as a scout is going to answer. And something, if you're not in the building, maybe you take that pro liaison. Maybe they've been truthful in the past. You take it for what it is. Again, being in the building, you learn that kind of stuff. In another case, I was sitting there watching film against somebody they described as a film junkie, high football IQ. Again, he just comes in, pops in, sits down, starts watching film with me, starts picking my brain. Again, he just wanted to talk ball. He wanted to be around it. He was one of those guys, again, described as a guy that was always in the building. And again, I got to see it. Maybe it was just a one-off case. They later verified it wasn't, because he did it with somebody else in a one-on-one situation. Again, just verifies all that information you've gotten as you have sat down and gotten all your information. So time in the building allows good scouts to see, hear, overhear, verify, or create more questions that will be answered on any of these prospects throughout the fall. It's also a tremendous time to see, meet, and talk with coaches, additional staff members. As the day gets longer, the schedule gets more free. Again, people are more likely, hey, I just need a break from what I'm doing in my office. I'm going to go see who to talk to. Hey, an NFL scout, maybe you've got a mutual connection. Maybe you talk about your team, past players. Always great ways to develop those sources. After that's film done, building starts to empty, work's been done for the day, it's time to hit the road. And NFL scouts typically going to drive between maybe an hour, 2 hours to the town of their next visit. Some rare cases, I remember the longest one night trip for me was 4 hours. If I had a 5-hour visit one time, Wisconsin to Minnesota, you're probably going to plan a travel day in there, because that is a long way to work and then get everything done that you need to. Grabbing your notes, getting on the phone with your family, maybe grabbing a workout, grabbing a decent meal, other than maybe just a protein bar or fast food. Again, you're probably going to get all that stuff done, type until about midnight, rinse, repeat, another hotel bed, pack it up, time to hit the road, hit the next school the next day. Of course, in the morning, before you get to the school, you also got to do your prep work. Again, it's not just showing up and looking at your list. Again, who are the coaches? Who are my mutual connections? Who do I already know here? Who are the prospects I really need to focus on? Who are, people in the building that I need to make sure I get to? Again, is it academics people? Do I need to text them? Do I need to do an extra meeting with somebody outside of the football building? Get all those stuff lined up via text, via email, have everything lined up. Doing all that, getting everything done, getting packed up, hitting it Monday to Thursday. You're going to be in great shape if you get these things done. Friday, maybe more of the same. You may spend a day typing. You may spend Fridays doing phone calls. That was often the case as coaches were, again, kind of winding down. Maybe they're thinking about the next week. Maybe they're just getting ready to hit the road. Phone calls are really good on Fridays. Perhaps it was a Thursday night game. Perhaps it's a light morning on Friday and the Friday night game. Likely at least half of a football game somewhere on Saturday, and then rinse, repeat for about 15 straight weeks to make sure your area is completely covered. So you still think you have what it takes to make it on the road as an area scout? Not often is it glorified, as honestly it's just not talked about enough, but often taken for granted by those who do not live and have not experienced that daily grind. Scouts, especially area scouts, are essential, vital, irreplaceable. They are a huge part of the scouting process that ultimately leads us to that NFL draft. The draft does not start in Mobile, as certain games moniker it. It starts long before that for scouts who do the work to get the players in the right spot to begin with. Still have more questions about life of a scout on the road, a week on the road, anything else scouting, head over to X, drop me a comment at RightStepADV is where you can find me. Tag Neil at Inside the League, along with our home tag pro_FB Insiders as well. Neil and I will be back tomorrow to talk all things football, counting the days to the opening of training camps at all levels. So until then, keep scouting.